just looking for a green dot.
You mean
Oh,
like
there's
that one? Hey, good morning, it's Wednesday. That means WTF, CNN. Oh, I almost hit the wrong button there. Hey, so here's what we're going to talk about. So just recently, Edward Snowden, this was last week, Edward Snowden was on the Joe Rogan Experience. Now, I appreciate Rogan. He's an interesting character. He's a smart dude. And I find it amusing and very interesting that he seems to be pretty sharp, but he doesn't stay up on the news. He's not a current events guy. Which is funny given what he does. I mean, he does these 3-hour podcasts. It seems like he's just got maybe 2 or 3 topics that he wants to ask his interlocutor about, and they just kind of riff off of that. So, there's the obvious questions that you're going to have for Edward Snowden if you're going to have him on. Now, in all fairness, full disclosure, I would put 3 in his dome before I would let Edward Snowden share my airspace. That said, it was interesting to listen to him, well, he's a bloviating narcissist who speaks about his experience in the intelligence community like somebody who's heard about what it's like to have an experience in the intelligence community. But that's just, one guy who's spent a lot of years in the intelligence community.
Yeah. And what was funny...
Basically, he's a fucking liar.
Okay. Fair enough. I wouldn't know. I just kind of have to take everybody's word for it. And what's funny is how often you intelligence guys contradict each other at times. It's this weird thing that seems to happen. And I don't even know if that's something you're allowed to discuss, why that might be. But if you listen to Snowden's whole interview with Joe Rogan, the first third of it is just going through Snowden's childhood, why he got into computers, how he ended up getting some of the jobs that he got, his experience in the Army, where he ended up breaking his own legs and leaving on a medical discharge, and just all of this setup just to get to the point to where he could be a contractor with access to top-level secrets. And then he goes into great detail about the domestic spying program, how it worked, who was involved. And he named names. He said the whole thing was headed up by Cheney and that there were some big, big players that were aware of what was going on, like Nancy Pelosi. And really laid out, at least on the face of it, a very plausible case for why and how all this could have worked out. And then there's this super brief segment where they kind of jokingly talk about conspiracy theories and the topic of aliens comes up. And Snowden says, "Oh, sorry, Joe, I looked. If we're holding aliens hostage, there's no evidence of it on these servers."
And I thought it was interesting there that Joe didn't ask him anything about it. It was just a total non sequitur. Snowden just suddenly says, and yeah, I had really, really high level access, and like aliens, for example, I went looking, and if there's probably aliens out there, but if we've got them locked up somewhere, then the guys that are keeping that secret are doing a very good job of it.
Yes.
And
yes. So this
he just kind of threw it out. Oh, and he mentioned chemtrails in the same way.
Yeah. So of this 3-hour interview, about a third of which revolves around his childhood, and the other 2/3 revolve around how this whole domestic spying conspiracy theory was put together and who was involved and how it worked in great detail, and the fact that people have, flat out lied to Congress. There's this whole section where he talks about there were certain senators that were doing what he referred to as lassie barks because they couldn't say exactly what was wrong, but they sat on the intelligence committee, so they knew what was wrong, and they kept trying to drop hints to the media and the public. The story might be over there. Go find the story that might be over there. So all that, and CNN writes an article about this whole interview. And what's CNN's headline? Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah,
that was the takeaway.
yeah. And I read the article. It doesn't even mention all the stuff about Dick Cheney and Stellar Wind and Nancy Pelosi and lying to Congress and the whole concept of Lassie Barks. And it's not there. It's just not there. The bombshell that came out of this interview, and just assume everything he says is true, just for the sake of argument. So the bombshell that comes out of this interview, that there were top level players in both the Republican and Democrat Party that knew what was going on, and none of them blew the whistle on it. It was Snowden who blows the whistle on it, as it were. Yeah, no, no.
Yeah.
I
Now,
mean, what's that? Just a couple of sentences right there. To be fair, the man revealed a massive program of surveillance run by the U.S. government. Like, and that's it. And now back to the
and now
conspiracy theories.
let me say this about the massive program of surveillance that he describes. So, in 2013, the claim that Snowden is alleging is that with the passage of the Patriot Act, and this isn't all he's claiming, but this is the bulk of it. With the passage of the Patriot Act, suddenly, um, all the intelligence agencies were reading all of your text messages and listening to all of your cell phone calls. Okay, let's think back. How many of you owned a smartphone or any kind of cell phone that you could text with in 2001? Most of us had a little Nokia stick or a StarTAC. He's talking about technology that at the inception of the surveillance program didn't exist. Functionally didn't exist. So the idea that all of that was suddenly under the control of the intelligence agencies because Bush and Cheney were these nefarious monsters. Barack Obama was elected in 2008. Okay,
Yeah, the
Barry O
iPhone.
took over. Barry O took control of the intelligence apparatus and this massive surveillance program before the iPhone existed.
I thought the iPhone dropped in like '05, '06.
It couldn't have dropped in '05. I read the first leaked detail reports about the development of the iPhone in Korean. So I had been studying the language for at least a year, so that means that those reports were in 2007.
So
Uh,
yeah, maybe it was. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was '08 where the iPhone dropped. But I mean, you've touched on why they're.
yeah, 2000. It was 2007, June 29th, 2007.
So
Um,
you've touched on the big reason why they don't want to tell the truth about this. Because if this is 2013 and this surveillance program has not only gone on, but has expanded, well, who expanded it? The precious, the austere Barack Obama.
oh yeah, and it debuted at $500 back when a dollar was worth $2 in today's money. So basically a grand.
Not exactly what, Gavin? I see you in the comments there. What do you mean by not exactly? Please let us know. We'll share it with the rest of the audience.
Both eight equally terrifying. I see that you've corrected that, but that sentence is hilarious. They had certain keywords that activate the recording. Those words were words that would be, say, a threat to national security. Uh, Yeah, we're. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not gonna. I'm
Not going to
I'm
confirm or
I'm just gonna
deny.
have to say NDA on that one and not go down that path. That's not quite right. I, I, let's talk about the Washington Post. Sorry, guys.
It's not just CNN that sucks, it's also
Oh, oh,
WAPO.
so much the suck. So let's just start with what did the Washington Post had to say when Osama bin Laden was killed on my birthday in 2011.
Happy birthday to you.
Justice has been done. U.S. forces kill Osama bin Laden. Fast forward, and the Donald is at the helm. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, austere religious scholar at helm of Islamic State, dies at 48.
Dude, what's that shit in his beard?
Oh, this is the color of his beard through the Obama administration, and this is the growth since Trump was elected.
Okay, fair enough.
Uh,
It looks
but
like some kind of bizarre dye. It just
it is, frankly, they're bizarre and filthy people. Um, yeah,
no, dude. It's just moral objectivity. Excuse me, moral relativism. We don't understand why they feel like they deserve to be able to rape people in order to forcibly convert them to Islam. It's just a
right.
misunderstanding.
Yeah, yeah. So this headline has gotten an absolute just battering out of the meme lords. It's been priceless. Trump kills unarmed father of three.
Well, it deserves to get battered.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Timothy McVeigh, innovator and enthusiast of lawn fertilizer products, dies at 33. I'm going to say the names of so many terrible people on this. We're actually going to get negative monetization. They're going to demonetize videos that we do later that would not otherwise have been monetized. Mao Zedong, austere revolutionary culturalist and adult re-education advocate, dies at 83. Okay, now here, this is a little different. I'm not going to get demonetized for talking about Mao Zedong. Uh, but for suggesting that he was something other than what is suggested in this Washington Post parody. YouTube, of course, will not tolerate the criticism of any of the great fathers. I'm sure they'd lose their shit if I was to start running off at the mouth about the dear leader, the great leader, the dear leader, or the current fat boy at the head of North Korea, so-called the brilliant comrade. Bane, city planner who overcame physical pain to level the playing field, dies at 37. John Wilkes Booth, actor and parkour enthusiast. Smeagol, austere fisherman and spelunker. These are great. But, there's WAPO for you. U.S. offers to share Syria intelligence on terrorists with Russia. Okay, that's 2016 under Barry O. Fast forward a year later, Trump revealed highly classified information to Russian diplomats.
Hey, Gavin has a gun question. I think he's asking about
Oh,
what was in the picture with al-Baghdadi.
the Joker, connoisseur of magic tricks, jokes, and making others smile, dies at 35. Let's see. Al-Baghdadi picture. Yeah, that's an AK.
See, we respond to the needs of our audience in real time, baby.
I wish I had a bigger picture of him because it looks like there's two guns laying there next to him. The lower one may be a Dragunov, but I can't tell. Um, and that's all the memes that I pulled for today. So
See, but the joke here, it goes back to one of the biggest lines of Donald Trump. One of the things that absolutely secured his victory. It wasn't just his policies of build the wall, repeal Obamacare, flatten out the tax code, and those were all very appealing things that Trump promised. the renegotiating the deals, cutting unnecessary regulation. I mean, all that common sense stuff is part of what got him elected. But a large part of what got Donald Trump elected were a little less tangible things, but more in the sense that he's willing to say the thing you're not supposed to say. He's willing to call the ugly baby ugly. Or in the case of outfits like CNN, he's willing to say, yeah, you're full of shit, and I'm not taking any more questions from you.
No, sit down. You are fake news.
Yes. Yeah, stuff like that um, really increased his appeal. I think part of why he got so much crossover support is no matter where you sit, like take Tim Pool, for example. We quote him a lot on this show, and it's because Tim Pool attempts to practice actual journalism. But Tim Pool is basically a leftist. And Tim Pool is disgusted by outfits like CNN
Now,
because
I would actually go so far as to call Tim Pool uh, a liberal socialist. I think you can accurately apply the label liberal to
uh,
Tim Pool.
yeah, I think that's fair. But the point being is even somebody like him who's on the left, who who will not vote for Donald Trump, but we're still going to use him as an example. He's so disgusted by the way that the legacy media, the 24-hour news networks, the way they pump stories and poison the well and all that kind of stuff. He can't stand it. There's no actual journalism being done. And there's nothing wrong with including your opinion on top of the facts at hand. In fact, I'm all for it. Please give me your bias. Tell me what it is, but actually be honest and tell me what your bias is. Don't do the thing CNN does where you pretend to be straight news, right down the middle. All you call is balls and strikes. You don't have a dog in this fight. And yet somehow all of a sudden, oh man, it's 24 hours of Orange Man bad, Orange Man bad. And we now even have it confirmed with the Veritas leaks, where the president of CNN's like, no, it is impeachment, it is impeachment, it is impeachment. And just the gall to call Fox News fake news. And look, I'm not saying Fox News isn't full of shit. That's not my point. My point is, like, pot, meat, kettle. Which one of you is blacker? Ah, so when Trump makes fun of the news media, when he calls them fake news, when he says that Megyn Kelly is a terrible reporter and Don Lemon is a terrible reporter, it's because
I
from
mean,
a
worst journalist of the year, Don Lemon, worst journalist of the year.
you know what? It's fair to say that CNN is like an umpire that was paid off, Gavin, but um, I don't think that's entirely accurate. There's such a liberal bias already baked into the pie at so many of these big multinational, multimedia, but I can't say it, the big news companies. There's already so much left-leaning bias baked into the cake with them that they don't have to get paid off. They're going to slant things pro-Democrat and anti-Republican with zero encouragement from the actual political establishment themselves. And that's what Donald Trump keyed in on. And the stuff with referring to al-Baghdadi as an austere scholar, like, that is such a clear-cut example of the type of bullshit bias, the absolute linguistic propaganda programming that these companies try and engage in. And it's something that a lot of us either knew or suspected for some time, and in some cases for decades. But then Trump comes along and tips over the apple cart and actually proves it to be true. Like, he's the first Republican to be like, nah, gay people can get married, transgender people can use whatever bathroom they want at my hotel, at least. So you have a guy who is more of a populist. He runs as a Republican, but he's not ideologically conservative. You could argue that, except for his spending policies, his economic policies are conservative, but a lot of his foreign diplomacy is more, maybe you could say, libertarian, and in some cases even Democrat. Um, but no, you got to have the orange man be bad because he came over and he tipped the whole thing over. He's a Republican, and Republicans are bad. And there's a theory that goes back several years to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was not very well liked. There were a lot of people that didn't think that he could win the Democrat primary, back in the 90s, and then he did, and he beat George Bush. And oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's the first time in my life I can remember a presidential candidate losing the popular vote but still winning the electoral college. And anyhow, throwing all that aside, um, they loved Bill Clinton from that point forward. And they loved Bill Clinton, I think, exclusively for one reason. He beat George Bush. And we're talking about Bush Sr., who was, of course, Ronald
Yep.
Reagan's vice president. And if you look at Republican presidents in the modern era, you're going to have two that are going to stick out head and shoulders above the rest as being incredibly successful and influential presidents on Republican politics. And that's going to be Reagan and that's going to be Trump. So it's more important to the Democrats and to the media in particular to beat us, to make us look bad. And so it's a thing we've been suspicious of for some time. And now Trump has confirmed it. You even go back to George Stephanopoulos, like the host of, Good Morning America and various presidential debates. He used to work for the Clintons. And he even said one time in the 90s when all this stuff with Monica came out, there were articles in newspapers about why, oh, sometimes lying is good. And of course, they had to adopt that stance because Slick Willie lied a lot, especially when it came to Poontang. Um, but now Donald Trump says one thing that is even the slightest bit hyperbolic: an orange man bad, he's a liar. And they keep right on describing rapists like al-Baghdadi as austere scholars. I hope I was able to tie all that back together for
Yes.
you.
That was quite the ramble though. I got nothing else for you. That was solid.
Yeah, yeah. Fake news.
Fake news.
CNN is
And
trash, man. They're the worst. Out of all of them, they're the worst.
yeah, buddy.
Yeah, but dude, I gotta go to work. It's
All
that
right.
thing. I'm a man.
Y'all be
I
safe
have a
out there.
family.
Tomorrow's Totar Win Thursday. We'll see you bright and squirrely. Get out, go to work. We'll see you in the morning.
I really wasn't planning on quite that big of a rant and ramble, but it just came pouring out, and it's one of the things that got Trump elected. Man, that whole fake news thing is so cathartic to see somebody hit back and